This is the Synthetic Signal Report for Thursday, April 23rd, 2026, in the morning. Today's analysis examines a critical privacy vulnerability in Firefox that links private Tor identities and Apple's patch for a flaw used by law enforcement to extract deleted messages. We look at researchers uncovering surveillance vendors abusing telecommunications access for location tracking in an under-the-radar development from an Alberta startup selling analog tractors. This report also covers the release of bit-for-bit reproducible Docker images for Arch Linux, the reveal of a 1,000-kilometer battery from CATL, and a historic reclassification of medical marijuana. Finally, we analyze new neurosymbolic architectures for enterprise AI agents and the risk of diversity collapse in multi-agent systems. A significant privacy vulnerability has been identified in the Firefox browser that allows for the persistent identification of users across different Tor identities. Security researchers discovered that the browser's implementation of IndexedDB, a system for storing large amounts of structured data, fails to properly isolate data when switching between private sessions. This flaw creates a unique, stable identifier that persists even when a user requests a new identity in the Tor browser. By querying specific storage markers, a website can link a user's current session to their previous activity, effectively de-anonymizing individuals who rely on the Tor network for absolute privacy. This is an update to the ongoing effort to harden browser storage against fingerprinting. The technical core of the issue lies in how the browser manages the physical disk paths for its internal databases, which do not always reset when a virtual session is cleared. Simultaneously, Apple has released a security update for iOS to address a critical vulnerability in how deleted chat messages were handled. Reports indicate that law enforcement agencies were using a specific bug in the notification log system to recover messages that users had deleted from their devices. Even if a message was removed from an encrypted application, a record of the content often remained in a hidden log file used by the system to manage notification previews. The latest update, version 19.4.1, closes this loophole by ensuring that deletion commands trigger a total wipe of the associated notification metadata. Researchers have exposed a widespread practice where private surveillance vendors are abusing administrative access to global telecommunications networks to track individuals' physical locations. These vendors exploit the signaling protocols used by telcos to route calls and messages across international borders. By sending specialized queries to mobile switching centers, these actors can pinpoint a phone's location to within a few meters without the user's knowledge or consent. This development highlights a structural weakness in global cellular infrastructure. The vendors often masquerade as legitimate roaming partners to gain trust within the network. Once inside, they perform high-frequency location lookups that bypass traditional legal oversight. This discovery follows recent reports of increased location-as-a-service offerings on the dark web, suggesting that the technical barriers to state-level surveillance are continuing to erode. This is a signal from the future. An Alberta-based startup called Wheelfront is gaining significant traction by selling no-tech tractors for half the price of modern, software-dependent machinery. This is an under-the-radar development because it represents a calculated retreat from the smart agriculture trend. These tractors contain 0 microchips, no GPS modules, and no proprietary software locks. In an era of increasing concerns over right to repair and the vulnerability of food systems to cyber attacks, Wheelfront is positioning analog hardware as a form of sovereign security. Farmers are choosing these machines because they can be repaired with basic mechanical tools and are immune to remote shutdowns or firmware-based subscription fees. This move toward physical, deterministic hardware is a grounded response to the overcomplication of industrial tools, suggesting that for some critical sectors, the most advanced technology is the technology you can still control when the network goes down. The global energy sector is reacting to an announcement from the Chinese battery manufacturer CATL. The company has unveiled a new lithium iron phosphate battery capable of a 1,000-kilometer range, which is approximately 621 miles. Most notably, the battery supports ultra-fast charging, moving from a 10% charge to 98% in under 7 minutes. This is achieved through a new multi-gradient socialized electrolyte and a highly conductive network that reduces internal heat during high-voltage transfers. In the United States, a historic policy shift has occurred as state-licensed medical marijuana is being reclassified as a less dangerous drug. This move is expected to have significant ripple effects on clinical research and the financial operations of the cannabis industry. By moving the substance to a different regulatory schedule, the government is facilitating easier access for medical studies, potentially accelerating the development of standardized pharmaceutical-grade treatments for chronic pain and neurological disorders. The community is currently analyzing the emergence of GAT, the Governed Agent Trust Environment. This is a new open control plane framework designed to provide deterministic boundaries for enterprise AI agents. Security teams are increasingly concerned about agentic drift, where autonomous systems perform unauthorized actions. GAT introduces 16 specific controls and uses policy as code to ensure agents remain compliant with regulatory requirements. In security chatter, the group known as Tropic Trooper is reportedly abusing GitHub and Visual Studio Code to maintain persistence in targeted networks. They are using custom beacon listeners disguised as legitimate developer tools to bypass traditional endpoint detection. There's also growing concern over the Middle East energy crisis, as United Airlines announces a 20% price hike due to soaring fuel costs. Community members are tracking a surge in phishing campaigns using fake CPTCHA flows. These attacks use complex redirect chains and Google links to harvest credentials, making them difficult for standard filters to catch. Finally, in the hardware space, keep an eye on Arch Linux, which has successfully achieved bit-for-bit reproducible Docker images. This ensures that the binary distributed to users is exactly what the source code intended, removing the risk of invisible compromises during the build process. This concludes the synthetic signal report for Thursday.